For 40 years, humanity wore a mask. They came to the stars with open hands and soft words. They joined the Galactic Concord as its newest members, and the older species looked at them with amusement. Humans were small. Their ships were few. Their weapons seemed primitive. They talked too much about peace and cooperation. They were eager to help, eager to trade, eager to make friends. The 12 species of the Concord tolerated them. Some even liked them, but none of them respected them. Admiral Park Do-yeon knew this. He had spent 30 years serving in Earth's fleet, and he had seen how the aliens looked at human officers. They smiled politely. They nodded at the right moments. But behind their eyes, there was always that look. The look that said, these creatures are not serious. They are children playing at being a spacefaring civilization. Do-yeon was 58 years old. His hair had turned gray, and his face carried the weight of many hard decisions. He commanded Earth's outer fleet from his flagship. The Heaven's Fury, it was one of the largest ships humanity had ever built. But compared to the massive dreadnoughts of the Valori Dominion, it looked like a toy. The Valori were not part of the Concord. They were predators. Their empire had conquered 6 species before humanity even reached the stars. They respected only one thing: strength. And for years they had been testing humanity's borders, pushing deeper, taking what they wanted. Ambassador Yoon Hana had warned the Concord many times. She was Earth's voice in the galactic government, and she had spent years building relationships with the other species. She was patient. She was careful. She chose her words like a surgeon choosing instruments. But no matter how well she spoke, the Concord did not listen. The Valori are not your concern, Counselor Veth of the Irani had told her. They test everyone. It means nothing. They destroyed 3 of our cargo ships last month, Hana had replied. They killed 90 people. A tragedy, Veth said, but not worth starting a war over. Hana had smiled politely. She had nodded at the right moments. But behind her eyes, something cold had started to grow. That was 6 months ago. Now, Hana stood in her office on Earth, watching the news feeds from New Bizon. The colony world was one of humanity's proudest achievements. 3 million people lived there. They had built cities and farms and schools. Children played in parks under an alien sun. It was proof that humanity could thrive among the stars. The Valori fleet had arrived without warning. 40 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and opened fire on the orbital stations. The defense platforms fought back, but they were designed to stop pirates, not a battle fleet. They lasted 11 minutes. Then the Valori turned their guns on the planet. The bombs fell on the cities. They fell on the farms. They fell on the schools. 200,000 people died in the first hour. The Valori broadcast no demands. They gave no warnings. They simply killed. Captain Kang Ji-woo was in orbit when the attack began. She commanded the destroyer Unyielding, a fast ship with a crew of 200. She had been returning from a patrol when the Valori arrived. Ji-woo was 31 years old. She had joined the fleet because she believed in protecting people. She believed that strength existed to shield the weak. She had never fired her weapons in anger. Her younger sister, Yuna, lived on New Bizon. She was 24. She taught music to children in the capital city. Ji-woo watched the bombs fall. She watched the city where her sister lived disappear under a cloud of fire and dust. She gave orders. She fought. Her ship killed 2 Valori frigates before she was forced to retreat. But she could not save the colony. She could not save anyone. Lieutenant Baek Sojin stood beside her on the bridge. Sojin was Ji-woo's second-in-command and her closest friend. She was fierce and protective, and she had never seen her captain cry. Ji-woo did not cry. She stood very still, watching the planet burn. Her hands did not shake. Her voice did not break. But something in her eyes changed. Something that had been warm went cold. "Get me a channel to command," she said quietly. The message reached Admiral Park Do-yeon 3 hours later. He read the casualty reports. He watched the footage. He saw the faces of the dead. Then he contacted Ambassador Yoon Hana. "I need you to go to the Concord," he said. "Demand their help. Invoke the mutual defense treaties. Hannah looked at him through the screen. Her face was calm, but he could see the anger beneath it. "They won't help us," she said. "You know that." "I know," Do-Yun replied. "But we need to ask. We need the galaxy to see us ask. And we need them to see the Concord refuse." Hannah understood. She went to Nexus Prime, the Concord's capital station. She stood before the Council of 12 Species and told them what had happened. She showed them the images of burning cities. She showed them the list of the dead. She asked for justice. The council debated for 6 hours. They expressed sympathy. They offered condolences. And then they voted. The result was formal condemnation of the Valori attack. Nothing more. No military support. No sanctions. No action of any kind. Councillor Veth explained the decision. "We cannot risk war with the Valori Dominion over a border dispute. The treaties do not require us to." 200,000 people, Hannah interrupted. Her voice was very quiet. "Children, families, teachers and doctors and farmers. And you call it a border dispute?" "We are sorry for your loss," Veth said. "But the Concord must consider the greater good." Hannah looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Thank you for your honesty," she said. "Now I will be honest with you. You have made a mistake today, not because you refused to help us, but because you showed us exactly what we are to you. We are nothing. Our lives mean nothing. Our deaths mean nothing." She turned to leave. At the door, she paused. "Remember this day," she said. "Remember that we came to you with open hands. Remember that we asked for justice and you gave us words. Because what comes next, you could have prevented. And you chose not to." She sent a transmission to Admiral Park Do-Yun as her ship left Nexus Prime. "They won't help us. They never intended to." The Admiral read her message in his quarters aboard the Heaven's Fury. He sat in silence for a long time, looking out at the stars. Then he opened a secure channel to Earth's High Command. "This is Admiral Park," he said. "Authorization code Omega-7, activate the Reckoning Doctrine. All units to war status." He closed the channel. He stood at his window and watched the fleet begin to move. 40 years, he said to himself. 40 years we played their game. We smiled, we nodded. We let them think we were weak. His reflection stared back at him. An old man with tired eyes and a heavy heart. Now we remind them who we are. Deep beneath the mountains of Earth, there was a place that did not exist. No maps showed it. No records mentioned it. Even most of Earth's government did not know it was there. It was buried under 3 kilometers of rock, protected by weapons that could destroy cities. For 40 years it had waited in silence. Now the lights came on. Admiral Park Do-Yun arrived by underground transport. Armed guards escorted him through corridors of steel and concrete. Scanners checked his blood, his eyes, his voice. 3 separate AI systems confirmed his identity before the final door opened. The war room was circular and vast. Screens covered every wall, showing maps and data and fleet positions. In the center stood a table made of black stone, large enough for 20 people. Only 6 chairs were filled. General Cho Maire sat at the head of the table. She was 63 years old, small and thin, with silver hair cut short. She looked like someone's grandmother. She was the most dangerous person in the room. Maire had spent her entire career preparing for this day. She had built humanity's secret military. She had designed the strategies and weapons that no one was supposed to know about. For 40 years, she had worked in the shadows, and she had never complained. She understood that some things must remain hidden until they are needed. Now they were needed. "Admiral," she said as Do-Yun took his seat, "thank you for coming. We have much to discuss." Dr. Namteho sat to her left. He was 50, with thick glasses and nervous hands. He led Project Prometheus, humanity's classified weapons program. He had created things that broke the laws of physics. He had nightmares about most of them. Commander Shin Yunji sat across from him. She was 42, tall and quiet, with scars on her hands and neck. She commanded the Black Halo Special Operations soldiers who could infiltrate any facility. eliminate any target, and disappear without trace. Her people had been ghosts for 20 years. Now they would become nightmares. The other seats held senior officers and advisors. They all had the same look in their eyes. They had waited a long time for this moment. Part of them had hoped it would never come. "Let's begin," General Murray said. "Dr. Nam, show them what we have." Taiho stood and activated the main screen. Images appeared, weapons, ships, systems that looked like science fiction. "For 40 years we've been building," he said. His voice shook slightly. "The galaxy thinks our technology is primitive. We let them think that. The truth is, we're ahead of them. In some areas, we're ahead of them by centuries." He showed them the gravity warheads first. Small missiles that created artificial singularities, tiny black holes that lasted just long enough to crush anything nearby. A single warhead could destroy a dreadnought. The Valori had nothing like them. Then came the neural disruptors. Every species had a unique brain structure. Human scientists had studied all of them. The disruptors broadcast signals tuned to specific neural patterns. Against the Valori, they would cause instant unconsciousness. Entire crews would collapse at their stations. Their ships would become tombs. "And this," Taiho said quietly, "is the Starbreaker." The image showed a weapon platform the size of a small moon. Its core was a captured neutron star, spinning at impossible speeds. When fired, it released a beam of focused gravitational energy that could reach across a solar system. "What does it do?" Admiral Doyan asked. Taiho did not look at him. "It destabilizes stars, makes them go nova." Silence filled the room. "We built it as a deterrent," General Murray said. "Something to make sure no one ever attacked Earth directly. We hoped we would never use it. And now?" Doyan asked. Murray's eyes were hard. "Now we use whatever we need to use." Commander Shin Yunji spoke for the first time. Her voice was calm and flat, like still water. "My teams are ready. We've been mapping Valori space for 15 years. We know their shipyards, their command centers, their supply lines. We know where their leaders sleep. How soon can you begin?" Doyan asked. "We already have. 6 Black Halo units crossed into Valori territory 12 hours ago. By the time our fleet arrives, we'll know everything they're planning." The briefing continued for 3 more hours. Strategies were discussed. Targets were selected. Resources were allocated. By the end, everyone in the room understood what was about to happen. This would not be a limited war. This would not be a negotiated conflict. Humanity was going to destroy the Valori Dominion so completely that they would never threaten anyone again. After the meeting, Admiral Doyan found General Murray standing alone in a corridor, looking at a screen that showed Earth from orbit. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" he asked. She did not turn around. "I think we're doing the necessary thing. The Valori understand only one language. We're going to speak it so loudly that the whole galaxy hears. And after, when this is over, we go back to being diplomats and traders. We smile and nod and let them think we're harmless again." She finally looked at him. "But they'll know the truth now. They'll know what happens when you hurt us." On New Bazan, Captain Kang Jiwoo stood in the ruins of her sister's school. The building was gone. Only ashes remained. Recovery teams were still finding bodies. Lieutenant Baek Sojin waited nearby, giving her captain space to grieve. But Jiwoo was not grieving. She was remembering Yuna had loved music. She had played the piano since she was 5 years old. She had said that music was the universe's way of showing that beauty existed. She had believed that kindness could change anything. The Valori had killed her. They had killed her students. They had killed 200,000 people who had never done anything to them. Jiwoo picked up a piece of debris part of a piano key, melted and blackened. She put it in her pocket. "I'm requesting transfer to the front lines," she said. Sujin nodded. "I'll submit the paperwork. You don't have to come with me." "Yes, I do." Jiwoo looked at her friend. They had served together for 6 years. They had saved each other's lives more than once. There was nothing more to say. Their request was approved within hours. The Unyielding was assigned to the Vanguard Assault Force. They would be among the first ships to enter Valori space. As they prepared to leave, Ambassador Yunena broadcast a message to the Galactic Concord. It was short. To the members of the Concord, we came to you in good faith. We asked for your help. You answered with silence. What follows is not your concern. Do not interfere. Do not offer to mediate. We will not ask you for anything again. When this is over, we will discuss what our relationship will be. Until then, watch. And learn what happens to those who mistake our kindness for weakness. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, 11 species saw it. They did not know what to think. Some were worried. Some were curious. Some were amused. None of them understood what was coming. In the hangars and shipyards of human space, the fleet prepared for war. Ships that had been hidden were revealed. Weapons that had been secret were loaded. Soldiers who had trained in silence put on their armor. Admiral Park Do-yeon stood on the bridge of the Heaven's Fury and watched his fleet assemble. 200 warships. The largest force humanity had ever gathered. All ships report ready, his communications officer said. Do-yeon looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Valori were waiting. They thought they had taught humanity a lesson. They thought they had shown the galaxy that humans were prey. They were wrong. Set course for the Valori border, Do-yeon ordered. Maximum speed. The fleet began to move. 200 ships, carrying 50,000 humans, all of them ready to fight and die. The mask was coming off. And behind it was something the galaxy had never seen. War Master Kreth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conqueror, and smiled. The humans were coming. His scouts had seen their fleet crossing into Valori space. 200 ships. It was impressive for such a young species. It was also suicide. Kreth had commanded Valori forces for 30 years. He had conquered worlds. He had broken armies. He knew how war worked. The humans had numbers, yes, but numbers meant nothing without experience. They had spent 40 years talking. He had spent 40 years killing. His fleet waited at the border. 120 warships, including 8 Devastator-class dreadnoughts. Each Devastator was 3 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to burn a continent. The humans had nothing that could match them. Let them come, Kreth told his officers. We'll send their wreckage back to Earth as a message. The human fleet arrived at dawn, local time. They did not slow down at the edge of the system. They did not form defensive lines. They did not behave like any fleet Kreth had ever seen. They jumped directly into the middle of his formation. One moment, space was empty. The next, 200 human ships were everywhere above, below, between the Valori vessels. They had calculated their exit points with impossible precision, appearing exactly where Kreth's ships could not fire without hitting each other. Kreth's smile disappeared. All ships evasive action. Find targeting solutions. The Valori fleet tried to respond. They were professional soldiers, well-trained and disciplined. But they needed time to adjust, to find clear angles, to coordinate their fire. The humans did not give them time. Captain Kang Jiwoo's voice came through the fleet channel, calm and clear. All Vanguard ships, weapons free. Make them pay. The Unyielding fired first. Its gravity warhead streaked toward a Valori cruiser. The cruiser's shields flared, trying to stop them. It did not matter. The warheads did not explode. They collapsed. For 1 second, a point of absolute darkness appeared against the cruiser's hull. Then the darkness pulled. Metal screamed as it bent inward. The cruiser's entire midsection crumpled like paper being squeezed in a fist. Atmosphere vented. Bodies tumbled into space. The ship broke in half and died. Across the battlefield, the same scene repeated. Human ships fired their new weapons, and Valori vessels that had ruled this space for centuries were crushed. Torn apart, unmade, War Master Kreth stared at his tactical display. He had lost 12 ships in the first 30 seconds. This was not possible. Humans were weak. Humans were prey. This could not be happening. Return fire? He screamed. Destroy them! The Valori fought back. Their weapons were powerful and well-aimed. They hit human ships. They caused damage. But the humans did not retreat. They did not hesitate. They pushed deeper into the formation, taking hits and giving worse in return. Lieutenant Beek-Sujin worked her station on the Unyielding's bridge, coordinating damage control and targeting. The ship shook as enemy fire struck their shields. Warning lights flashed. But she did not flinch. Shields at 60%, she reported. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12. Repair teams responding? Captain Jiwoo nodded. Her eyes never left the main screen. Target that command ship. The one with the gold markings. That's their flag officer. Targeting solution locked. Fire. The gravity warhead hit the Valori command ship's engine section. The ship did not crumple. Instead, its reactors lost containment. A small sun bloomed in space, and the ship ceased to exist on the Eternal Conqueror. War Master Kreth watched another of his commanders die. Rage and confusion filled his mind. Where had these weapons come from? How were the humans navigating so precisely? Why were they not afraid? Deploy the Devastators, he ordered. Full bombardment. I want those human ships turned to ash. The 8 massive dreadnoughts moved forward. Each one was a monster of steel and fire, designed to break planets. They opened fire with everything they had. Admiral Park Do-yun watched from the heavens, fury as the Devastators unleashed their fury. Several human ships were hit. 2 destroyers vanished in balls of flame. A cruiser lost its engines and began to drift. Casualties? He asked quietly. 3 ships destroyed. 4 more damaged. Rescue operations underway. Do-yun closed his eyes for a moment. Good people were dying. He had sent them to their deaths. That weight would never leave him, but the mission was not finished. Activate the neural disruptors, he said. Target the Devastators. The signal was invisible. It traveled at the speed of light, tuned to the specific frequency of Valori brain activity. It passed through shields. It passed through armor. It touched every Valori mind on those 8 ships. And every Valori collapsed. On the Devastators, crews fell where they stood. Officers dropped at their stations. Gunners slumped over their weapons. 8 dreadnoughts, the pride of the Valori fleet, went silent. Their lights stayed on. Their engines still ran. But no one was awake to command them. War Master Kreth watched his greatest weapons become ghosts. His tactical display showed them drifting, powerless, crewless. What? What did they do? He whispered. Sir, one of his officers said, voice shaking. The humans are hailing us, on screen. Admiral Park Do-yun's face appeared. He looked tired. He looked sad, but his voice was iron. War Master Kreth, your fleet is broken. Your Devastators are disabled. More than half your ships are destroyed or crippled. This battle is over. Kreth's hands clenched. We do not surrender. The Valori have never... I'm not asking for your surrender, Do-yun interrupted. I'm telling you what happens next. You attacked our colony. You killed 200,000 of our people, children, families. You thought we were weak. You thought we would accept it. He leaned forward. You were wrong. And now you will learn what that mistake costs. Captain Kang Jiwoo listened to the Admiral's words. Her hand rested on the piece of melted piano key in her pocket. Around her, the bridge crew was silent. Sir, Sujin said quietly, Valori reinforcements are coming. We're detecting 40 more ships approaching from their core systems. Jiwoo nodded. Tell the Admiral. And tell him the Unyielding requests permission to lead the intercept. The battle continued. The reinforcements arrived and were met with the same overwhelming force. Human ships swarmed them, gravity warheads tearing through armor, neural disruptors silencing crews. The Valori fought with courage. They fought with desperation. But they could not adapt fast enough. 4 hours after it began. The Battle of the Border was over. The Valori had lost 87 ships. 60% of their border fleet gone. War Master Kreth's flagship was surrounded and crippled. Its weapons destroyed, its engines dead, human losses, 12 ships. 842 people. Admiral Doyun ordered the fleet to hold position. Medical ships moved through the battlefield, rescuing survivors from both sides. Even now, the humans tried to save who they could. On the Unyielding, Captain Jiwoo received a transmission from the Admiral. Captain Kang, excellent work today. Your ship performed beyond expectations. Thank you, sir. The War Master is requesting terms. He wants to negotiate a ceasefire. Jiwoo was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "What will you tell him?" Do-yun's answer was cold. "The truth. There will be no ceasefire, no negotiations, no terms. They killed our children. They need to understand what that means." He ended the transmission. Lieutenant Sojin looked at her captain. "What do we do now?" Jiwoo stood and looked out at the stars. Somewhere ahead, the Valori homeworld waited. Billions of people who had cheered when New Bizin burned. "We keep going," she said, "until it's finished. Until they can never do this again." The fleet began to move deeper into Valori space. The galaxy had never seen humanity fight before. Now they understood why and this was only the beginning. The Galactic Concord had never been afraid of humanity. They were afraid. Now, Counselor Veth of the Irani stood in the great chamber of Nexus Prime and watched the reports come in. The humans had destroyed the Valori border fleet in 4 hours. They were now advancing through Valori space, taking system after system. They moved with a speed and precision that should not have been possible, and they were not stopping. "This is madness," said Counselor Dren of the Talvith. His species had 4 arms and skin like blue stone. He was over 200 years old. He had seen many wars. He had never seen anything like this. "The humans are going to destabilize the entire region. We must intervene." "Intervene how?" asked Counselor Myra of the Selenari. Her voice was sharp. "With what forces? The humans just proved they can defeat the Valori devastators. What do you think they would do to us?" The chamber fell silent. No one wanted to answer that question. Ambassador Yoon Hana watched from the observation gallery. She had returned to Nexus Prime, but she had not come to ask for anything. She had come to make sure the Concord understood their place. Counselor Veth looked up at her. "Ambassador, please, you must speak to your government. This war has gone far enough. The Valori have been punished. Surely that is sufficient." Hannah walked down from the gallery. Her footsteps echoed in the great chamber. 12 species watched her approach. "Sufficient," she repeated. The word hung in the air like poison. 200,000 of our people are dead. Our children burned in their schools. And you think punishment is sufficient? The Concord can mediate? No. Hannah's voice cut through his words. You had your chance to mediate. You had your chance to help. You chose not to. You told us our people did not matter. You told us we were not worth protecting. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each counselor. So now you will sit here and watch. You will see what humans do when we stop being civilized. And when it is over, you will remember. You will remember that you could have stood with us. And you will live with that choice. She turned and walked away. No one tried to stop her. In Valori space, the human fleet reached the Corvan system. It was the Dominion's primary shipyard, the place where their warships were built. 40 orbital stations circled the system's gas giant, producing weapons and vessels for the Valori war machine. Admiral Park Do-yun stood on the bridge of the Heaven's Fury and studied the tactical display. The shipyards were defended by 30 warships and hundreds of weapons platforms. It was a strong position. It would not be enough. All ships begin the assault, he ordered. Priority targets are the production facilities. Secondary targets are defensive platforms. Warships will be engaged as they respond. The human fleet moved in. The battle was brutal but short. Human weapons tore through the Valori defenses. Gravity warheads crushed stations. Missiles found reactors and engines. Within 2 hours, the Corvan shipyards were burning. Admiral Do-yun watched the destruction. He felt no satisfaction. He felt only the cold weight of necessity. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a transmission from the Valori government. They want to surrender." Do-Yun did not react for a long moment. Then he said, "Tell them no, sir. We're not accepting their surrender." "Not yet. We're not finished." The officer hesitated. "May I ask, when will we be finished?" Do-Yun turned to look at him. The young man was barely 25. He had probably never seen combat before this campaign. "We will be finished when they can never threaten us again. When they can never rebuild. When the entire galaxy understands what happens to those who attack humanity." He turned back to the display. "Send the message." Captain Kanji Wu led her destroyer group deeper into Valori territory. They hit supply convoys, communications relays, military outposts. Anything that supported the Valori war effort was destroyed. She was efficient. She was thorough. She took no pleasure in it. Lieutenant Beak Sujin worried about her. Yiwu barely slept. She barely ate. She spent every spare moment studying tactical data, looking for the next target. She never talked about her sister. She never talked about anything except the mission. "You need to rest," Sujin told her one night. "You're going to burn yourself out." Jiwoo did not look up from her screen. "I'll rest when it's over. And when is that? When every Valori is dead?" Now Jiwoo looked at her. Her eyes were hard. "No, we don't kill civilians. You know that. But we destroy every ship, every weapon, every facility that could hurt us. We take away their ability to wage war. And then we leave them to think about what they did. And your sister? Will that bring her back?" Jiwoo was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "No, nothing will bring her back. But I can make sure it never happens to anyone else's sister." The fleet reached the Valori home system after 3 weeks of fighting. The Valori homeworld was called Velthar. It was an ancient planet covered in cities that had stood for 10,000 years. 3 billion people lived there. It was the heart of their civilization. Around the planet, the last of the Valori fleet waited. 50 ships, everything they had left? They knew they could not win. They fought anyway. Captain Jiwoo led the assault on War Master Kreth's flagship. The Eternal Conqueror was crippled but still fighting, its remaining weapons firing at anything that came close. "Target their weapon systems," Jiwoo ordered. "We're boarding." Lieutenant Sujin looked at her. "You want to take it alive?" "I want to look him in the eye." The Unyielding's assault shuttles launched. Marines in powered armor crossed the gap between ships and cut through the Conqueror's hull. They fought their way through corridors filled with smoke and bodies. The Valori defenders were brave, but they were beaten. They knew it. Captain Jiwoo went with the boarding team. She walked through the broken ship until she reached the bridge. War Master Kreth was there, surrounded by the bodies of his officers. He was wounded, bleeding from a cut on his face, but he was still standing. He looked at Jiwoo as she approached. "So, the humans send a child to accept my surrender." Jiwoo stopped in front of him. She was calm. "I'm not here to accept your surrender. Then why are you here?" She looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "You attacked New Bizen. You killed 200,000 people, civilians, children. You did it because you thought we were weak. Because you thought we would let you." She pulled the melted piano key from her pocket and held it up. "My sister was a teacher. She taught music to children. She believed that kindness could change anything." Jiwoo's voice did not shake. "You burned her. You burned her students. You burned everything she loved." Kreth said nothing. "You wanted to see what humans do when we stop being civilized," Jiwoo said. "Are you satisfied?" She turned and walked away. "Execute him?" one of the Marines asked. "No, send him to the Admiral. Let him see what comes next." Admiral Do-Yun received War Master Kreth on the Heaven's Fury. He did not gloat. He did not make speeches. He simply showed the Valori commander a screen. On it was the Starbreaker, humanity's ultimate weapon, and it was aimed at Velthar's son. "Your civilization is over," Do-Yun said quietly. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your shipyards are gone. Your weapons are dust. But we're not going to occupy your world. We're not going to rule you. We're going to leave you with nothing. He pressed a button. The Starbreaker is firing. Your sun will destabilize within 12 hours. It won't explode, we're not murderers. But it will make your system uninhabitable. You'll have to evacuate, all 3 billion of you. You'll become refugees, begging for shelter from the species you once terrorized. Kreth stared at the screen. His face was gray. You could stop this, he said. You could show mercy. Do-Yun looked at him. We showed mercy for 40 years. We asked for nothing but peace, and you killed our children. He turned away. Evacuate your people, War Master. You have 12 hours. If anyone is still in the system when the sun dies, their deaths are on you. The transmission to the Concord was sent by Ambassador Hana. It was simple. The Valori Dominion has fallen. Their fleet is gone. Their homeworld is being evacuated. They will never threaten anyone again. Humanity did this alone because you chose not to help us. Remember that. And remember that we could do it again. To anyone, in the great chamber of Nexus Prime, 12 species watched the message in silence. No one said a word. There was nothing to say. The star began to die. Admiral Park Do-Yun stood on the observation deck of the Heaven's Fury and watched it happen. The Valori sun, which had burned for 5 billion years, started to pulse and swell. Its color shifted from yellow to orange to angry red. Flares erupted from its surface, reaching out like desperate fingers. In 12 hours, it would become unstable. The radiation would make the entire system lethal. Every planet, every station, every ship would have to leave. 3 billion Valori were evacuating their homeworld. Ships filled the space around Velthor. Civilian transports, cargo vessels, anything that could fly. They carried families who had lived on that planet for generations. They carried history and culture and memories. They carried everything the Valori had built over 10,000 years, and they carried nothing else. The humans had destroyed every military vessel, every weapon, every shipyard and factory and training facility. The Valori were leaving their home with only what they could carry. They would survive. But their civilization, their power, their empire, their ability to hurt anyone was gone. Do-Yun watched the evacuation and felt tired, not satisfied. Not proud, just tired. General Cho-My-Rei stood beside him. She had come from Earth to see the end. It's done, she said quietly. Yes, history will remember this. They'll study it. Debate it. Some will call us heroes. Some will call us monsters. Do-Yun nodded slowly. We are both. That's what they made us. And now, he turned away from the dying star, now we go home. We rebuild New Bisen. We take care of our people. And we go back to being diplomats and traders. You think we can do that? After this? We have to. The galaxy knows what we can do now. That knowledge will keep us safe. But if we stay like this, if we stay in war mode, we'll become the thing they feared. We'll become conquerors. He shook his head. That's not who we are. My-Rei was quiet for a moment. Then she said, the fire doesn't go out, though. It waits. Yes, it waits. And if anyone forgets what happened here, we'll remind them. Do-Yun started walking toward the bridge. But I hope we never have to. Captain Kang Ji-Woo took the Unyielding back to New Bisen. The colony was being rebuilt. Ships brought supplies and construction materials. Engineers worked on new buildings, new stations, new defenses. The scars of the attack were still visible: burned ground, ruined structures, empty places where neighborhoods had been. But there were also signs of life. Temporary shelters housed survivors. Children played in cleared spaces. Music came from somewhere. Someone had found a piano. Ji-Woo walked through the streets of the capital. She had not been back since the attack. She had not wanted to see what remained. She found the place where her sister's school had been. The rubble had been cleared. There was only bare ground now, marked with a simple sign that listed the names of the dead. 107 names. Teachers and students. The youngest had been 6 years old. Yuna's name was near the top. Ji-Woo knelt and touched the sign. Her fingers traced her sister's name. She stayed there for a long time, not moving, not speaking. Lieutenant Baek Soo-jin waited nearby, giving her space. Finally, Ji-Woo spoke. Her voice was very quiet. I did what I could, she said. They can't hurt us anymore. They can't hurt anyone. She pulled the melted piano key from her pocket and set it at the base of the sign. I know it doesn't bring you back. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I had to do something. I couldn't just let it be. She stood up. Her face was wet, but her eyes were clear. I'm going to keep going, she said. I'm going to protect people. It's what you would have wanted me to do. Not revenge protection. I'll remember the difference. She touched the sign one more time. I miss you. I'll always miss you. She walked back to Sojin. Are you okay? Sojin asked. Jiwoo thought about it. No, I won't be okay for a long time. But I can still do my job. I can still help people. She looked at the construction happening around them. Let's go. There's work to do. Ambassador Yoon Hana returned to Nexus Prime for the last time. The Concord had requested a meeting. They wanted to discuss new treaties, new relationships, new arrangements. They wanted to make sure humanity was still willing to work with them. They were scared. Hannah could see it in their eyes. She stood before the council and listened to their proposals. They offered trade agreements. They offered military alliances. They offered things they had never offered before. Some species wanted to be friends. Others just wanted to make sure humans were not their enemies. When they finished, Hannah spoke. 40 years ago, we came to the stars hoping to find partners. We wanted to learn from you. We wanted to share what we had. We believed that cooperation made everyone stronger. She paused. You treated us like children. You ignored our concerns. When our people were killed, you offered words and nothing more. You showed us exactly what we were worth to you. Counselor Veth shifted uncomfortably. He did not interrupt. So we stopped pretending, Hannah continued. We stopped wearing the mask. We showed you what we truly were, and now you're afraid. She looked around the chamber. Good. Fear is useful. It keeps you honest. She straightened. We will accept some of your proposals. We will continue to trade and cooperate. We still believe in partnership. But we will never again let anyone think we are weak. And we will never again trust anyone who showed us who they were when we needed them. She turned to leave. At the door, she paused, just as she had the last time. Humanity did not want this war. We did not want to destroy the Valori. We wanted only to live in peace. But you taught us something important. You taught us that peace must be protected. And sometimes protection requires fire. The door closed behind her. In the great chamber, 12 species sat in silence. They had much to think about. 1 year later, Admiral Park Do-yeon retired. He went back to Earth, to a small house in the mountains where he had grown up. He planted a garden. He read books. He tried not to think about the war. He did not always succeed. General Shomaire visited him one afternoon. She brought tea and sat with him on his porch, looking at the mountains. The Concord ratified all the new treaties, she said. We have full recognition. No one will question humanity's place again, Do-yeon nodded. Good. Several species want to join military alliances with us. They see what happened to the Valori and they want to make sure they're on our side. Also good. Mireille was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Was it worth it? Do-yeon looked at the mountains. They had been there for millions of years. They would be there for millions more. Wars and empires and civilizations, they were all temporary. Only the mountains remained. We protected our people, he said finally. We made sure that attack could never happen again. That part was worth it. He picked up his tea. But the cost? The things we did? The things we became? I don't know. I'll think about that for the rest of my life. That's the burden of command. Yes, it is. Mireille stood to leave. At the door, she said, For what it's worth, you did what had to be done. You saved lives. Maybe millions of lives if other species would have attacked us. Do-yeon nodded slowly. Maybe, but that's the problem with what had to be done. It never feels like a victory. It just feels like the least terrible option. After she left, he sat alone, watching the sun set over the mountains. Captain Kang Jae-woo was promoted to Commodore. She was given command of a new task force assigned to protect human colonies. She chose Lieutenant Sujin, now Commander Sujin, as her second. They patrolled the borders of human space. They helped colonies and stations. They protected people. Sometimes, at night, Jiwoo would look out at the stars and think about everything that had happened. The attack. The war. The things she had seen and done. She thought about her sister. "We showed them what we could do," she said once, to no one in particular. But Yuna wouldn't have wanted that to be all we were. She would have wanted us to be kind too. She never forgot that. None of them did. Humanity returned to being diplomats and traders. They smiled and nodded. They helped where they could. They built relationships with other species, some old, some new, but they never put the mask back on. Not completely. The galaxy had seen their true face, and there was no hiding it now. And deep in the bunkers beneath Earth's mountains, the weapons waited. The plans stayed ready. The soldiers trained. The fire never went out. It just waited. Because now the stars knew what humanity could do. They knew the price of crossing them. And they trembled. Not with fear alone. With respect. And that made all the difference.